The small coastal town of Greyhaven had always been known for its eerie fog and the legends of ghosts that roamed its shores. But it was also known for its lighthouse, which had stood tall for over a century, guiding ships safely to the harbor. The keeper of this lighthouse, an old man named Thomas, had recently passed away, and a young woman named Claire was appointed to take his place. Claire arrived on a misty evening, her car packed with her belongings and a sense of excitement mixed with trepidation. She had always been fascinated by lighthouses and the sea, but Greyhaven's reputation for hauntings was something she tried not to think about. The townspeople welcomed her politely, but with a hint of reservation, their eyes filled with unspoken warnings. The lighthouse stood on a rocky cliff, its light piercing through the thick fog. Claire moved into the small cottage at its base and began her duties. Her first night was uneventful, though the wind howled around the tower, creating a mournful symphony. On the second night, Claire began to feel a presence. As she climbed the spiral staircase to check the light, she heard soft whispers, though she was alone. She paused, listening intently, but the whispers faded into the wind. She brushed it off as her imagination and continued her work. Over the next few days, the whispers grew louder. They seemed to follow her, echoing through the narrow corridors of the lighthouse. Claire tried to ignore them, but sleep became elusive, her dreams filled with shadowy figures and mournful cries. One evening, while tending to the light, Claire noticed a figure standing at the edge of the cliff. It was a woman, her dress fluttering in the wind, her face turned towards the sea. Claire called out, but the woman didn't respond. Concerned, she hurried down the steps and out into the cold night air.
Hello?
Claire called, approaching the woman cautiously. The woman turned, her eyes hollow and filled with sorrow.
He is coming back,
she whispered, her voice barely audible over the crashing waves.
Who's coming back?
Claire asked, but the woman simply pointed out to sea, where a dense fog was rolling in. The woman vanished before Claire's eyes, leaving her standing alone on the cliff, her heart pounding. She rushed back to the lighthouse and shut the door, her mind racing. She had heard the stories of the Greyhaven ghosts, but seeing one was something else entirely. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. The whispers grew louder, forming words she could almost understand. As the clock struck midnight, the air grew cold, and a spectral figure appeared at the foot of her bed. It was Thomas, the old lighthouse keeper, his eyes filled with a mix of warning and despair.
"Leave this place,"
he said, his voice echoing as if from a great distance.
"He's coming back. You must leave."
Who's coming back?
Claire asked, her voice trembling.
"The captain.
Thomas replied.
He is coming back for what is his..."
With that, Thomas faded away, leaving Claire in the dark, her mind reeling. She knew she couldn't just leave. She had to understand what was happening. The next day, she visited the town's small library, poring over old records and newspapers. She found the story of Captain Elias Gray, a ruthless man who had perished at sea over 100 years ago. Legend had it that he was searching for something precious, something he never found. As night fell, Claire prepared herself. She lit candles and placed them around the lighthouse, hoping their light would keep the spirits at bay. The fog rolled in thicker than ever, and the whispers became a cacophony of desperate voices. At midnight, the temperature plummeted, and the figure of Captain Elias appeared in the doorway. His eyes were cold and unforgiving, his presence radiating malice.
"Where is it?"
he demanded, his voice like the rumble of distant thunder.
I don't know what you're looking for.
Claire said, standing her ground.
"The locket.
He hissed.
My wife's locket. It was taken from me."
Claire remembered the woman on the cliff, her sorrowful eyes.
I saw her. Your wife. She's waiting for you.
Captain Elias's expression softened for a moment before rage overtook him.
"It is here,"
he growled.
"In this place."
Claire frantically searched the lighthouse, guided by the whispers of the spirits. She found a loose brick in the wall and pried it open, revealing an old, tarnished locket. She held it up, and the room grew silent. Elias reached for it, his ghostly hand trembling. As he touched the locket, his form began to shimmer and fade.
Thank you.
He whispered before disappearing into the night, the fog lifting as he went. The whispers ceased, and the air grew warmer. Claire stood alone in the lighthouse, the locket heavy in her hand. She knew the spirits had found peace, but the memory of that night would stay with her forever. From then on, Greyhaven's lighthouse shone a little brighter, its keeper forever vigilant, watching over the restless spirits of the sea.